gave my father's company 20 years of my life. He repaid me by giving my inheritance to my younger brother, who never worked a day. In 4 decades of presiding over family disputes, I've learned that the deepest wounds are often inflicted by those who share our blood. But Daniel Sterling's case transcended typical inheritance battles. This was a 20-year investment betrayed by the very man who should have protected it. Daniel Sterling was 45 when he walked into that mahogany-paneled boardroom at Sterling Industries headquarters expecting a routine family meeting. 2 decades of 70-hour weeks, of missing his children's soccer games to close deals, of building his father's manufacturing empire from $5 million to $50 million in annual revenue. He'd earned every gray hair, every stress line, every sacrifice that had shaped him into the executive his father claimed to respect. But William Sterling, 72 years old and still clutching power with arthritic fists, had different plans for the company legacy. Michael, the old man began, his voice carrying the weight of decades in boardrooms, it's time we discussed succession planning. Daniel straightened in his chair. This was the conversation he'd been preparing for since joining the company at 25, fresh from his MBA, eager to prove himself worthy of the Sterling name. Across the table sat his younger brother Michael, 38, whose greatest professional achievement was managing the family's charitable foundation, a position that required attending galas and writing checks. But what William announced next shattered 2 decades of loyalty and sacrifice.
"I've made my decision about the company's future," William continued, his pale blue eyes avoiding Daniel's steady gaze. "Michael will be taking over as CEO and primary beneficiary of Sterling Industries." The words hung in the air like smoke from an extinguished fire. Daniel felt something cold settle in his chest. Not surprise, because he'd seen the signs, but the bitter confirmation of a fear he'd been suppressing for months. "Dad," Daniel said carefully, his voice maintaining the professional composure that had served him well in countless negotiations, "I think we need to discuss this decision. I've been running operations for 15 years, I know, and you've done adequate work, but Michael has the vision this company needs for the future." Adequate. 20 years of building client relationships, streamlining manufacturing processes, expanding into 3 new markets, and opening 2 additional facilities, reduced to adequate by a man who hadn't set foot on the production floor in 5 years. Michael shifted uncomfortably, clearly as surprised by the announcement as Daniel was. "Mike, maybe we should—" "The decision is final," William declared, pulling out a folder thick with legal documents. "The lawyers have already drawn up the new will and succession plans. Daniel will retain a position as VP of Operations, reporting to Michael." That's when Daniel realized this wasn't about business, it was about control. After the meeting, Daniel sat in his office overlooking the factory floor where he'd spent countless hours learning every aspect of the business. The workers below had no idea that their livelihoods were about to be placed in the hands of someone who couldn't distinguish between profit margins and charitable tax write-offs. His phone buzzed with a text from his wife, Sarah. "How did the meeting go? The kids are excited to hear about Grandpa's decision." Daniel stared at the message, imagining how he'd explain to his teenage children that their grandfather had just declared their father's life work insufficient, that their college funds, secured through his bonuses and profit sharing, might be in jeopardy under Michael's leadership. That evening, Daniel did something he hadn't done in 20 years. He left the office at 5 p.m. sharp and drove home without taking calls or reviewing reports. He sat at his kitchen table with Sarah and really looked at her for the first time in months. "He chose Michael," Daniel said simply. Sarah's coffee mug stopped halfway to her lips. "What do you mean chose Michael?" "The succession plan. Michael gets the company, I get to work for him." But Daniel's wife saw something in his eyes that no one else had noticed. Sarah Sterling hadn't married a weak man. She'd married someone who'd spent 2 decades sacrificing his personal ambitions for family loyalty, who turned down executive positions at Fortune 500 companies because he believed in honoring his commitments. But now she watched that loyalty transform into something harder, more focused. "What are you thinking?" she asked. Daniel leaned back, a slow smile spreading across his weathered features. "I'm thinking that for 20 years I've been building something I thought belonged to me. Time to find out what I can build that actually does." The next morning, Daniel made 3 phone calls that would reshape everything William Sterling thought he controlled. The first call was to James Crawford, CEO of Meridian Manufacturing, Sterling Industries' biggest competitor. They'd tried to recruit Daniel twice over the years, offers he'd declined out of family loyalty.
loyalty. James, this is Daniel Sterling. Are you still looking for someone to head your expansion into the Northeast markets? The first domino fell within 48 hours. The second call was to Rebecca Martinez, Sterling Industries head of sales, a woman Daniel had mentored and promoted over the past decade. She'd built relationships with every major client, understood their needs, and had grown the sales division from $8 million to $25 million in annual contracts. Rebecca, hypothetically, if you had an opportunity to build a sales team from scratch with unlimited budget and complete autonomy, would that interest you? By Friday, Rebecca had submitted her resignation, followed by 3 other department heads Daniel had trained and promoted over the years. The third call was to Sterling Industries' largest client, Automotive Solutions, Inc., a relationship Daniel had cultivated for 8 years, growing their account from $500,000 to $4.2 million annually. Tom, this is Daniel Sterling. I wanted to give you advance notice of some changes at Sterling Industries that might affect your account. But William Sterling had no idea that his son had just declared war. Within 2 weeks of the succession announcement, Daniel had systematically contacted every major relationship he'd built during his tenure. His approach was surgical. He wasn't bad-mouthing the family company. He was simply providing alternatives for people who'd worked with him personally. Automotive Solutions, Inc. decided to diversify their supplier base and moved 60% of their business to Meridian Manufacturing, where Daniel was now Executive Vice President of Strategic Development. Peterson Industries, a $3.8 million account, followed suit after their procurement director admitted, "We work with Daniel Sterling, not Sterling Industries." Global Logistics Corp., a $2.1 million client, quietly shifted their contracts when Daniel offered them better terms and guaranteed personal oversight of their account. William watched helplessly as Sterling Industries' revenue dropped from $50 million to $31 million in 6 months. The board of directors, family friends who'd watched Daniel grow up, began asking uncomfortable questions about the succession decision. Michael's first board meeting revealed everything wrong with William's choice. The client exodus is temporary, Michael assured the increasingly nervous board members. We're implementing new customer retention strategies. Board member Patricia Hendricks, who'd known Daniel since he was a child, leaned forward. Michael, what specific strategies, and how do you plan to replace the institutional knowledge that walked out the door with these departures? Michael's answer revealed his fundamental misunderstanding of the business. We'll hire consultants to analyze our market position and develop comprehensive client engagement protocols. Consultants speak for, I have no idea what I'm doing. Daniel, meanwhile, was thriving at Meridian Manufacturing. His insider knowledge of Sterling Industries operations, combined with his established client relationships, made him invaluable. Within 8 months, he'd helped Meridian capture 40% of Sterling's former market share. The final blow came from an unexpected source.
Dr. Elizabeth Morgan, Sterling Industries' longest-serving board member and William's oldest friend, requested a private meeting with the aging patriarch. She'd watched the company's decline with growing concern and had reached her limit. "William, I've known you for 30 years, and I've never seen you make such a catastrophically poor decision." William's pride bristled. "Michael is my son. He deserves—" "Michael is a good man with a generous heart," Elizabeth interrupted, "but he's not a business leader, and you know it. Meanwhile, you've driven away the one person who actually built this company's success." She slid a folder across William's desk. "These are Daniel's performance metrics over the past 20 years. Revenue growth, client retention, operational efficiency. Every category shows consistent improvement under his leadership. Now look at our numbers since Michael took over." The contrast was devastating. Under Daniel's operational leadership, the company had grown by an average of 12% annually. Under Michael's management, they were hemorrhaging clients and revenue at a rate that threatened the company's survival. That's when William Sterling realized he'd made the mistake of his lifetime. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning in March, exactly 1 year after the succession announcement. Daniel was reviewing expansion plans in his corner office at Meridian Manufacturing when his assistant announced that his father was on the line. "Daniel?" William's voice sounded older, more fragile than Daniel remembered. "We need to talk." "About what, Dad?" There was a long pause. "About coming home." Daniel leaned back in his chair, looking out at the bustling manufacturing floor that had become his new domain. "I am home. Meridian appreciates my contributions. The company is struggling," William admitted, his pride cracking with each word. Michael isn't ready. He needs more time." "How much time, Dad? Another 20 years?" "The conversation that followed would determine the fate of 3 generations.
"I made a mistake," William said, the words clearly causing him physical pain. I thought blood was enough, that being a Sterling automatically qualified him." Daniel felt something loosen in his chest. Not forgiveness, but recognition. His father was finally seeing what Daniel had known for months. Leadership isn't inherited, it's earned. "What are you asking me, Dad?" "Come back. Take your rightful place as CEO. Help me fix what I've broken." Daniel was quiet for a long moment, thinking about Sarah's words from the night before. "You've proven your point. Now, decide what you actually want." "I'll consider it," Daniel said finally, "but not as your son asking for forgiveness, as a business executive evaluating an opportunity. If I come back, it's on my terms." The negotiation took 3 weeks. Daniel's conditions were non-negotiable: complete operational control, a restructured board that included industry professionals rather than just family friends, and a public acknowledgement of his role in the company's previous success. Justice came in a form that restored honor without destroying family. The press release appeared in the Wall Street Journal on a Thursday morning. Sterling Industries announces leadership restructuring. Daniel Sterling named CEO, founder William Sterling transitions to chairman emeritus. The article quoted William Sterling directly. "My son Daniel built this company's success over 2 decades of dedicated leadership. It's time to formally recognize his contributions and secure Sterling Industries' future under his guidance." Michael, to his credit, publicly supported the decision. In a rare moment of honesty, he told the industry press, "I've learned that wanting to lead and being qualified to lead are different things. Daniel has the skills this company needs." Under Daniel's restored leadership, Sterling Industries recovered quickly. Former clients returned, drawn by the stability of familiar leadership. The employees who'd remained during the turbulent year were rewarded with expanded responsibilities and better compensation. The company not only survived, but emerged stronger, more focused, and better positioned for future growth. The lesson here extends far beyond family business dynamics. Daniel Sterling's story proves that respect must be earned, even within families. William Sterling had confused genetic inheritance with professional qualification, a mistake that nearly destroyed everything he'd built. But the story's resolution also demonstrates that justice doesn't always require permanent destruction. Sometimes it requires honest recognition of worth and the wisdom to correct past mistakes. Daniel didn't win by destroying his father or brother. He won by proving his value independently, then offering that value back to his family on terms that honored his contributions. The year he spent at Meridian Manufacturing wasn't just about business success. It was about reclaiming his professional identity separate from family expectations. If you're watching this and you've ever felt undervalued by your own family, remember Daniel's story. Your worth isn't determined by blood relations or inherited titles. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step away long enough to prove your value independently, then decide whether to offer that value back. If this story resonated with you, if you believe that merit should triumph over assumptions, hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about people who refuse to accept others' limitations on their potential. And share this with someone who's struggling with family expectations. They need to know that true success is always self-determined. The truth is, Daniel Sterling didn't just inherit a business legacy, he created one. And in the end, that made all the difference between being a son and being a leader. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give your family is the courage to demand they see you for who you really are. What would you have done in Daniel's position? Share your thoughts in the comments below.